Oh no, he's frozen in
that?
cup.
You ever like hold your face like really hard, but you start hearing your blood pumping in your ears?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I
I
was
hate
doing.
when that happens.
That's what I was doing. Yeah. I had the
Just
ears were
frozen.
pumping. Oh,
Reminds me of the silly faces I used to make as a kid, and my
so
parents
that's why
would.
it looks like that.
Yeah, exactly. The wind did change, and my face did freeze like this. I feel like that's really great audio content, right?
I think it's top quality. I really do. I'm thinking, yeah, that's it.
People don't need to be able to see.
That was the missing ingredient. Making that joke that your face is gonna stick like that. That's what's been missing. Welcome to the stratosphere. We've been launched. That's it.
I love it. A face, only a mother could love, and a face for radio. Yep. That's why I became a radio astronomer, actually.
A face only mother can love. Looking at a star only an astronomer can love.
Oh. Like when people say that brown dwarfs are failed stars. It just feels so harsh and judgmental. I don't think you're a failure.
And it sucks. I finally discover a star and it doesn't work.
It's doing its best.
It's doing its best. Come on, buddy.
What's great is that like you find these things that are either like they're generally from a scientific perspective extremely cool and impressive and interesting, and like as I've discussed before on the show, like you don't get to name them after yourself. Stars are just named according to the instrument that found them and their coordinates in the sky, like a boring phone number sort of thing. But what they will do is they will name a rock after you if you're a successful enough scientist. They'll just like name an asteroid after you at some point. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I found a star that's doing all of this fancy stuff, and in return, I have this rock.
You need to find a rock.
But I don't do it for the rocks. I do it for the science because I do love the science. That's why I'm here.
I do like the science.
That's why we're all here. Yeah. We are here for the science, and we are especially here because this is Science Actually Presents the Nerd and the Scientist for another week, another episode.
Another episode. What is this? Episode
Yes.
54.
Oh, we have 54 already.
52 was the double guests of Emily and Bruce. Then 53 was Crawford.
Yes, Courtney. Yes.
Courtney,
okay.
Thank you, Courtney.
Cool.
And then that's us. Hello, everybody. Whew!
Yeah, we've been
Sorry
having too many
to
guests.
keep you people bored with non-stop guests and excitement and hearing from people who've done amazing things. We're going to bring it back down and just
Level setting.
That's it. We're recalibrating ourselves to just two incredibly handsome, funny guys who like space. Whew! What a run. And we're not even done.
Yeah.
I love it.
We still have such an incredible run of fascinating guests coming up. And we haven't even done the open call. Oh, I was meant to do an open call, and I'm going to do this soon. So if you are a scientist or a massive nerd, keep an eye out for a guest submission form that I'm going to circulate soon, which I totally forgot about. But you can suggest guests. Yeah.
Oh.
I feel like we spoke about this.
Yeah, I know we have, but I'm just trying to add a little something.
I'm sorry. I jimmied up your jam.
Sorry to
but
Go.
Yeah, all good. It's been an incredible run of guests, and we only have even more incredible guests, or equally incredible guests, continuing to come. Um, but yeah, I thought it would be good to just maybe take us back, take a little chill pill, remind our audience of our roots, where we came from, and just you and me, Benjamin, you and me,
That's it.
just just having a chat,
Just
little
chitty
chat
chit
shit,
chat chat. A little chit chat.
chitty chitty
Chat
chitty
chat.
chat chat. Yeah,
I'm gonna shoot the
Ch-ch.
chat a little bit.
Yeah. We'll shoot the shot. I think the only topic that might tie this episode together coherently um, will be bugs. And that's purely coincidental because we had some small uh, software bug with the recording platform in the previous two episodes. And Benjamin and I were chatting about that in our private messages. And then immediately after I responded to that, Benjamin says, "Okay, so what are we going to talk about in the next episode?" And I said, "Bugs.
Bugs. Why not?
Why not? Why not? Yeah, they're everywhere. There are billions of them. Sure, lots to talk about."
Yeah.
And then this guy over here went off and did like a thesis, a
I didn't
bug
do a
thesis.
thesis, but it was the funniest thing. What are we gonna talk about next week? I don't know. Bugs. Done. Challenge accepted. And then I did a little digging, and holy moly, there have been so many bugs sent to space. There have been so many bugs that caused very famous events to occur in space, and like bugs in software. And it's why not? Let's. I thought we could just go through a few funny little things that
Sure,
have to do with
let's
bugs
do
in
it.
space. It'd be great.
Space
I wanted
bugs
to
with
use like the intro music from the Muppets Pigs in Space, and I want to see if I can kind of change that to bugs in space, but it didn't work.
I feel like we'll have a good few references in this episode that could provide some great intro music.
I'm sure we will. We'll come up with something.
Yeah, but let's jump right in
Let's jump right
to
in.
that.
Kavi, do you know what the first bugs were sent to space? And these were actually the first living animals ever launched into space.
Okay, so it wasn't the monkey or the dog.
Nope,
I'm guessing it was a bug,
it was a bug.
a bug of some kind.
It was
Was
a
it a
critter.
fly?
What?
It was
What
a,
did you
was
say?
it was it a fly?
It was a
A
fruit
fly,
fly.
a fruit
Little
fly,
containers
nonetheless.
of fruit flies sent up in a V-2 rocket in 1947 on board a United States a mission just to see if something can go up there, interact possibly with cosmic radiation, come back and still be
Mhm.
alive. And sure enough, the fruit fly survived. They were recovered after parachuting back to Earth, and they're just fine. And
Hold on a second.
no, I know where you're going. I know you're going. Yes, they manufactured these tiny little parachutes, tiny little parachutes for each individual little fly, and it was great. They did play Flight of the Valkyries. It was really cinematic, and they were just coming down.
But it was like a buzzing version of Flight of the Valkyries, right? For the little flies. Like,
Yes, that actually happened.
okay, in their tiny, tiny parachutes. Cool. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page. Fascinating.
They were in a container, and the container parachuted.
Right, and the container had
I
like the
like
little
our version
holes
way better.
poked into the top of it with a fork.
So they can breathe.
There was somebody at NASA for a brief period whose job was like chief fork engineer.
So what? You gotta get these
Okay,
critters
so,
to space. They need to breathe. Pop, 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 pop. We probably had some really unique $15,000 titanium fork that's used specifically for poking holes. Yep.
okay, that's the first one.
That's the first one. Uh, another fun one was cockroaches.
Yes.
They went up to space on Apollo 12,
Hmm.
and what the idea was, NASA was going to expose them to lunar dust just to see if it was toxic. They actually tried to feed lunar dust to the cockroaches and see if they would die, get sick, or anything like that. And they were fine.
I I have a question.
I hope I have an answer.
If you're choosing a creature, a living organism,
You know,
to test the toxicity of a certain material,
Mhm.
why would you choose a creature that is like well known for being able to survive basically
Anything.
anything?
My question for this, along those lines, this was Apollo 12. We sent humans on Apollo 11 to actually get covered in lunar dust. And then we sent Apollo 12 with cockroaches. Let's see if it's toxic. Dude, you're sending men number 4, 5, and 6 along with these cockroaches.
Neil came back. He's like, I've had this rash since the flight, and I feel like it's got to be the lunar regolith.
Oh
And that's just like,
god.
oh, we have to indemnify ourselves somehow. What can we do?
Speaking of bugs in Apollo, one of my favorite little itty bitty side stories about Apollo is when Neil and Buzz and Michael Collins came back from Apollo 11, the first one to go to the moon, and they were kept in isolation, their little vehicle, when that transferred
Hmm.
them directly from, the little helicopter. They rode it back to NASA, and then they took that little vehicle and drove into the little uh, sealed off building that was sealed from the outside, so they could just be observed to make sure they didn't bring back any contaminants from the moon. Blah 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 blah. And so
Hmm.
they had the run of this building to just run around, exercise, move about freely instead of being inside of a pod. And the story goes that Neil and Buzz were just jogging around the hallway, one floor of this building, which has been sealed off from the outside world. And there are ants, speaking of bugs, crawling across the floor. So that's when they realized none of this really matters. The bugs are getting in. That means something is getting out. And it's just a very buggy. So hey, that's a
Yeah,
good thing. That's been a fun thing.
I'm just picturing like the security guard late at night who realized that when he noticed a trail of like bioluminescent irradiated ants coming out of this building.
That would have been cool. That would have been cool.
Uh, okay, cool. So we have lots of very real bugs
Real bugs.
involved in early spaceflight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as we go through, like, surely they just transitioned to using larger creatures that were closer in physiology to humans, right?
Of
Or just
course.
more
I
bugs.
mean, yeah. I mean, we mentioned Apollo. Well before Apollo, the chimpanzee that you mentioned went up. Ham, I think his name. And
Ham.
the Soviets launched dogs up into space. A couple stray dogs that they found, and they cleaned them up. Made them healthy, fed them good. Off you go. So yes, they had lots of larger things before these insect type experiments or
Hmm.
issues
Okay.
that came about. But yeah, there's some weird ones. Skylab 3 in 1973. Along with astronauts sent up to Skylab, they were sent up with mealworms, and they wanted to just see how space radiation exposure could affect these worms. And the astronauts, in the name of science, of course, decapitated some of the mealworms just to study their regenerative abilities in zero gravity. I think they just ripped off their heads because they're bored. But the weird thing is, not only did the mealworm body regenerate a head in some cases they regenerated multiple heads. which is a freak
What?
show. Very small, not too scary, but and
It's like tiny hydras.
some tiny hydras. Yes. And so some of the theories are that microgravity disrupted cellular signaling responsible for proper regeneration, or there were random mutations that were suddenly triggered in front of people's eyes because of exposure to space radiation. They don't really know, but I think the microgravity thing is more likely. And yeah, very cool. Astronauts go up to space with worms, come back with worms with multiple heads. Science.
Why? Why are they called mealworms? Because when you first started saying that, I was like, I mean, surely you can't make a meal out of a whole worm. Like, I know that there are budgetary constraints at NASA at the time, but
Yeah. No, I'm sure they mix it up with like coffee or something, like bit of protein
yeah,
coffee.
worms go well with coffee, as we all know from Men in Black. Naturally. Uh, so I think now is about the time in our episodes that we normally do a little adski poo. Um,
Adskapoo.
I I am thrilled as always to talk about today's sponsor, Science
Mm-hmm.
Socks. Um, I mean, it's just like if you like rovers, if you like the James Webb Space Telescope, if you just like flaunting just like how much you love everything that's nerdy, Science
Mm-hmm.
Socks is just the perfect one-stop shop for adding a bit of galactic flair to your life.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
If your feet are cold and they're smart feet, you want to show that off and warm your feet at the same time.
Yeah.
I agree. They're
If you're
awesome. I have one pair of socks that I spray painted on E equals MC squared. It's true, actually. It's true. Those were my science socks, and they're so the production quality are so poor, and they're so
are
not
they
good.
actually socks? Or you just
They're
like
actually
spray painted
socks,
your entire
and I
foot?
wore them out, and I think it's the funniest thing that our sponsor is Science Socks. They make these awesome socks with all the cool things that Kavi said. Just all sorts of science iconography that's just beautiful. Wonderful patterns,
Yeah.
wonderful colors, and jewelry too for those of you who are
Yes.
not into the whole socks thing. We got
Yeah,
your
if you're a
necklaces
nerd
and
or a
earring
scientist,
game
but
covered.
but if you prefer going barefoot and so you're like, ah, science socks is not relevant for my life. Yeah, the other side of the science socks coin is um, nerdy jewelry, like JWST, James Webb Space Telescope,
Mm-hmm.
mirror segments either on a necklace or earrings. You can also get a space shuttle earring set made out of real space rock from
Oh, how
space that
awesome is
come
that?
to Earth. So cool.
I'm not
So
gonna
cool.
let. I don't want to let any episode go without mentioning the JPL parachute umbrella. I love
Oh,
that
yeah.
thing. It's the coolest thing. It's bright. It's
So cool.
pretty. It's got a hidden message. Keeps you dry. What more do you need?
Yeah. And to get that and all of the other things that we've mentioned and much more, you can go to sciencesocks.com/nerd. That's sciencesocks.com/nerd. Yes. And if you do
Yeah.
that,
Mhm.
10%, if you use that link, 10% of your purchase will go towards a STEM charity. There are a range of STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and math, charities that Science Talks works with, and 10% of the proceeds of every purchase will go to one of those charities. So, yeah.
Uh,
ScienceTalks.com/notes.
ScienceSocks.com. Ah, we have pre-recorded commercials for ScienceSocks.com. We just riff them instead because it's more fun.
I told Daniel that we would do that. I'm like, listen, we'll throw in the ad, but we've got to keep doing the improv. The people come for our ridiculous improvised ads, and we can't disappoint our audience.
Can't explain. That was actually really nice. Back to bugs.
Back to bugs.
We
How's
covered
your bug?
actual living
Yes.
bugs. Now we're going to talk about software bugs. If
Soft
any of you
bugs.
have a job in which coding is part of it, you're familiar with how catastrophic one misplaced character can be. And such is the case for Mariner 1 in 1962, the hyphen that destroyed a rocket. There was a missing hyphen in the rocket's guidance software, which caused it to veer off course. A negative was now a positive, and therefore NASA had no choice but to destroy the spacecraft just a couple minutes into launch when it was going the wrong way.
I like you're so right that this is par for the course for anybody who works with code. But like, I remember when I was first like working with MATLAB. When you write lines of code in MATLAB, you need to put a semicolon at the end to kind of do the command, but not just like endlessly loop and print out stuff and then basically crash your computer. Like that was the worst case scenario. You just have to like, you know, Control Alt Delete and end the task. Otherwise, bad things happen to your computer. But this is like multi-million-dollar explosion over the Pacific.
And they're not even cool explosions. They're just fireball down. That's it. You think NASA and other space agencies should, just for shits and gigs, line the insides of their rockets with like little fireworks. Just in case the thing blows up.
Yeah, just like fireworks and confetti, make it like a
Something.
gender
I'm
reveal
not saying I want
thing.
rockets to explode and I want every single space traveler to be safe and come home
Of
safe.
course,
I'm
of
just saying,
course.
when you take into account the many, many, many millions of dollars it costs to launch these things, a good fireworks display for 10 grand is pennies, and you could just tape it on the inside. And
The problem, you know what the problem is, right? The problem is when the mission is going fine, and then the fireworks go off for no
you get that
reason.
one guy at the range button, the range control guy's like, man, 4th of July was canceled again.
It'll be like the first successful landing of humans on Mars, and they touch down, and the moment that they do, suddenly it's just like a Roman candle. But we feel kind of fitting though to celebrate the landing.
I think it would be very fitting to celebrate the landing. I can't believe that's actually going to happen. I believe it will happen. It's going to happen.
We should write a letter. Yeah.
Okay, I will write a nice long letter. Please go to Mars. Anyway, 1965. Let's go back to 1965.
Yes.
Gemini 5. There was a programming error in the onboard computer that triggered an erroneous mission abort warning. It was a very good thing that the astronauts did not act on it, and because it was a fake abort warning. Nothing was wrong. They saw nothing was wrong. Just the abort thing just turned on. They could tell from all their training it turned on for no reason. And so that
Okay.
and some communication with Houston, they just continued writing. And luckily, they did not act on it, and they made the space just fine and came back.
Nice. It's a pleasant bug story.
Yeah, it's a nice little bug story. Um, let's see. There for Apollo 11. Let's go back to Apollo. The big day. The
Big
Buzz
day.
and Neil are actually descending and about to land on the moon's surface for the very first time.
Mm-hmm.
And for big fans of the Apollo missions in space history, there's the famous 1202 alarm and the famous 1201 alarm.
Because they were
Called the
landing at
executive
lunchtime, right?
overflow alarm. And basically, all it was saying is that the computer uh, is running out of space. It can't handle so many tasks. And
Mm.
the overload was caused by a radar switch was turned in the wrong position. It was a rendezvous radar meant for docking with the command module when they came back. They did not need that, so it should have been switched to off, but it was switched to on. So there was a part of the Apollo 11 spacecraft lander's brain, in a sense, trying to connect with the command module, which it wasn't trying to do at that moment. And that was a little warning that
Oh,
too much work was happening.
yeah, it would have been freaking out, right? Because if you have a radar to tell you when you're getting too close to the command module when you're trying to dock,
Yeah.
and you have that on while you're trying to land, it's basically saying like you're getting too close to the thing. Slow down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, yeah, like a parking sensor when you're backing into a spot next to a wall. Huh. Yeah,
Exactly.
wild. But luckily, then you had to ignore them or debug it. I guess I should say.
But yeah, luckily there was a guy there who knew the programming alert section of the whatever manual quite well, and so when that alarm came up, he was there on hand, knew what it was, ready to tell them exactly. Don't worry, keep going. I know what this is. You're fine. And sure enough, they were.
Nice.
What else you got? What else you got? Bugs, bugs, bugs.
Show me what you got.
Show us what you got. Let's see here. My favorite, one of my favorites, is the Mars Climate Orbiter in 1999,
Oh no.
and it is the metric versus imperial disaster. I love this thing. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's painful.
Yes. The Mars Climate Orbiter was going to go to Mars and
Makes sense.
it and just start scanning its atmosphere and its environment and try to, just get any more information about Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And Lockheed Martin, who built the spacecraft, provided thrust data in pound force seconds. And NASA's navigation team at the JPL were expecting Newton seconds in metric. And so, since nobody bothered to see that that was happening, and nobody bothered to make any conversions of the units, when the spacecraft arrived at Mars, it was about 100 miles too low, and it couldn't deal with it, couldn't correct for it. The atmosphere, although it's thin on Mars, if you're 100 miles closer to it, it's considerably thicker than 100 miles away, and that thing just went straight down to kablooey. Fun, it's been found, actually. The impact for this thing has been found in the years since the impact crater, but very, very, very
How
funny,
big of a
very
crater
sad.
are we talking?
Not a big crater, just a small little.
Not a big crater?
Not a big
Yeah.
crater.
I mean, it might be small if you think that you're talking in feet, but it's actually in kilometers. Bane of my existence. Yeah. Working as a physicist,
crater is
working in
like
code.
500 meters wide and 50 feet deep. There you go.
Oh.
I don't know how big the crater is. I just made it up so I can use both.
Speaking of bugs and craters, I feel like maybe this is on your list, but like the Space IL mission, the Bereshit lander, that hits both like real bugs and software bugs,
It
right?
did. I have it. I have it on my list. Yes.
I'm jumping the gun.
Yes. To tardigrades. They're technically
Right.
not bugs, but kinda. And they were aboard Israel's or Space IL's Bereshit lander,
Right.
which was awesome. This thing was flying to the moon, had awesome selfies of itself, getting closer and closer to the moon, and it was carrying a small little payload of tardigrades on board. And yes, there's a bug in the system. They did not
I think the tardigrades were stowaways, right?
Yeah,
I think the actual payload, there was some like uh, science
that's exactly
instruments. I
right.
think maybe a magnetometer, magnet, a thing to measure the magnetic field, and also they had like laser discs with like all of human knowledge and like the Old Testament written on them. But the tardigrades were stowaways. But yeah, like the software bug, I think was in the IMU. So basically, like it's a little unit that measures the inertia, like an accelerometer or a gyroscope, for the lander. And there was a bug in the IMU that basically they I don't think they needed to. I think they could have tried to do the landing as is, but the decision was made that in order to restart that IMU, they would restart the entire um, kind of compute system. And then the problem is that when like the system finally came back on, they were like 180 meters above the surface going at
Way too
800 meters
fast.
per second.
Way too late. Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing that could be done,
The
unfortunately, at that point.
tardigrades were actually indeed on there on purpose. That was to
Oh, they
fight.
were.
Yes. A few thousand of them
Ah.
in a small little resin disc. Dehydrated tardigrades, along with DNA samples and books and other media that you mentioned. And if they survived, they should be fine. They are known for cryptobiosis and biosis, and they can survive extreme conditions and could be reanimated if you simply add water. And I assume
Just add water.
water, just add water, and I assume some heat and a couple other things. They are dormant if they survive, but
Hmm.
not alive.
Yeah, add a cup
Oh,
of water and put them in a low temperature oven for
yeah,
20 to 25 minutes,
or
fan
microwave
setting,
if you don't have that kind of time. If you're impatient,
or air fry. Air fry is also a good option.
I can't stand the air fryer, but the food comes out so
Uh, but yes, so Space IL. Actually, I happen to have a Space IL badge right here, that I got when I used to be involved with their education team, um, back in the day. Um, yeah, so Space IL hit both real bugs and software bugs all in one.
good. Yeah, awesome.
Nice. Love it. All right, what else we got in the way of bugs? All things
The
buggy.
Spirit Rover, the endless reboot. There was a memory overflow problem with the Spirit Rover, and it entered into an endless reboot cycle. NASA thought it was broken, and it took them a while to figure out that that was happening. And luckily, they were able to send a remote fix. And during one of the reboots, when it checked into NASA, it was getting a message from NASA, and
Hmm.
it made it stop doing that over and over and over. The worst kind of software glitch I can imagine happened in 2008 on the ISS. A software glitch in the Russian built ISS International Space Station
Hmm.
toilet caused it to stop working.
Ooh.
So astronauts had to make an emergency repair with spare parts sent up on the shuttle. The shuttle
Wait.
just so happened to be coming up like a week or two after the problem happened. So for that short amount of time, they were able to get rid of liquid waste no problem. But I said, but
The tension is killing me. Well,
they
what
got
what
rid of
did they do with?
for a little over a week is basically find anything that looks like a bag and let's start bagging everything and storing it until we get a toilet and we can get rid of it properly.
Wow.
So there was a week of storage. Space Shuttle Discovery on mission STS-124 was given a last minute piece of cargo, which is just toilet supplies, and they brought it up, fixed it. There was a small little toilet on a docked Soyuz that could be used, but it was only meant to be used a few times, not for a space station size crew for a week and a half of constant use. So it was an emergency only potty.
I I mean the Soyuz from what I've seen is like pretty small, so that emergency toilet would have been a tight squeeze. Like
Yeah, I mean
no
NASA
pun intended.
and Roscosmos and now SpaceX, um, they are very, very crafty when it comes to how little space they have and cramming things into a small little area. Um, SpaceX, all those Dragon capsules that go up there, they go with the bathroom. It's not just a big empty room. There's a small little bathroom that's tucked in behind a panel near the ceiling. So you pull back that
Hmm.
panel, and out comes all the apparatus you need to relieve yourself and clean up. And there's even a handy dandy little curtain that you just pull across the top of the spacecraft, and you have a little bit of privacy, and you can do what you got to do, and that's it. And then everything tucks back into the wall. So yeah,
I hope the
that's a lot
curtain.
of space. Uh-huh.
I hope that nice. I do hope that that curtain has like metal rods to keep it in place, because otherwise, if you're in space, the curtain might just be like slowing up.
Oh my god.
Sorry. Toilet humor. Can't beat it.
Well, you were.
Nope. Okay. So we've covered bugs and we've covered software bugs and we've
Mhm.
covered toilet bugs. um, what else? What's like if you had to choose like one ultimate bug that's space related? What would you choose?
Oh my god. Um. What's
And I'm relying on you here because I know that you
I know
did
you did.
again like a
I
bug
know. I
thesis.
know. I know.
You know all the bugs.
What's a bug? Hubble. Hubble was a big one.
Oh yeah,
So much work went into the $1.5 billion Hubble Space Telescope, and this is in $1990. So I'm sure that's like 1.501 billion today. I don't know. I'm not good
yeah.
with math. No, I'm sure it's worth a lot more today. $1.5 billion Hubble Space Telescope. All the work and all the testing. It went on a space shuttle ride to get it up there, and everything was just this incredible marvel of technology, and it was blurry. And so um, the lens itself, the physical lens itself, was the issue. So scientists here were writing all sorts of code to try to unblur the images, try to figure out how the where the blur came from and if they could reduce the blur and get a sharper image. That didn't really work too well. So the ultimate glitch had to have the ultimate fix with another shuttle flight, bringing up a new lens and a spacewalk, and they had to capture the spacecraft, the satellite, and they had to open it, take out the bad part, put in the new part, and this is by hand in space, so it's the idea of things being done, to precision was
Yeah.
a great concern. But turns out worked out great. Worked out great. They fixed it
In
really.
those massive gloves, like you don't exactly have a lot of dexterity,
Oh no.
um, and you're probably like sweating profusely while you're up there, out there. Um, yeah, that'll be intense.
Intense.
And probably the first guy who saw it's like, wow, the universe is just so blurry. I wasn't expecting it to be so
I thought there'd be more stuff. Turns out no,
blurry.
no.
Where's all this stuff, man? Um, Okay. Yeah, that was a big oopsie. But thankfully, as I think we mentioned in 2 episodes ago when we were talking with Emily and Bruce, like Hubble has continued to produce incredible science results to this day. So
Absolutely.
it's very much worth it. Even now with JWST being in operations, and it's very hard to get time on JWST. It's still hard to get time on Hubble because it's continuing to just be like a field leading telescope.
It's
Super
incredible.
impressive.
It's a
Yeah.
workhorse. Even it competes with even the latest and greatest still to this day. It's been up there for
Yeah.
35 years. Yeah.
30. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what Emily said. 35 years. Wild. Yeah. That's pretty
Wild,
crazy.
wild stuff.
Wild stuff. Speaking of wild stuff, I did notice something in your notes that I was kind of confused about. Um, I'll let you tell folks what that thing is, as like the
Actually,
last
this is
story of this
yeah.
episode.
It's a funny thing. Uh, my father-in-law sent me. He sends me links all the time. Hey, this is funny, and sometimes they are, and sometimes they aren't. But this one actually was. I didn't believe it was true, and then I looked it up and I read like, yes, yes, it is indeed true. Uh, I do not care for reality TV, but there was a time in the early 2000s where reality TV shows kind of had this theme that somebody's on the show who doesn't know it's all a scam. And
Okay.
everybody else that's on the show is completely in on the joke. This is not real. You are being made fun of. There was a British show in 2005 called Space Cadets. It was 10 episodes being aired in real time as they were happening across 3 weeks. A bunch of contestants won
Hmm.
their spot on this reality TV show, but it's a reality TV show that's going to follow these people into space. They're going to go through training, they're going to go
Cool.
through physical training, they're going to go through written tests and study, long hours, hard work.
Hmm.
They visited the launch pad, they met the people in the control room, they went through the whole thing, and
Yeah.
they bought it. They bought it hook, line, and sinker, and they even boarded their craft, thinking, "Oh my God!" People strapped them in, the whole deal. The craft they boarded was a very elaborate capsule on top of all sorts of hydraulic lifts and such in a giant warehouse, and it simulated for them similar to a roller coaster, like G forces and lots of rumbling, and they went through the whole
Like the
launch
whole
sequence.
launch. Wow.
And somehow the part I don't get, there was some kind of I didn't I obviously didn't watch the entire episode, but somehow they kind of tricked them into believing that they're able to walk around their capsule while they're in space instead of floating because of some technological whatever. And then when it was time for the big spacewalk to go out into space, and they open up the airlock, instead of seeing Earth from above, they saw a studio audience laughing at them, and that was I don't know. It was just too good, just too good. That's not
Oh,
really a
that's
bug,
brutal.
but it's mean. They each got
That's
5,000 pounds for their trouble
for the trouble of wasting like 3 weeks of their lives and
and their
being
hopes.
publicly humiliated. They should do a "Where Are They Now" and just see that like two of them have been camped outside of like the Johnson Space Flight Center for the last decade, begging to come in. We've been trained, I tell you, we've been trained.
Or even worse, like, you're all being lied to.
Yeah.
You're being lied. He doesn't exist. We know. We went
Oh,
through it.
that's brilliant. Oh, yeah, the Venn diagram of people who are participants in this show who are flat earthers. That would be brilliant. I wonder what that crossover
I
is.
wonder if a flat earther knows about that show and uses it as proof. See, they couldn't do it. It had to be fake.
It's a documentary.
Oh my goodness,
Uh,
flat earthers. Ain't they a peach?
ain't they a peach? Just like a big old flat peach. Yeah.
Big old peach.
Big old peach. This episode has been a peach. I missed like just chat chitting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I mean, it's no bad dad jokes episode. I mean, that one was pretty stellar.
I'm still getting good feedback about that show, and I don't know
Really?
why. I mean, even yeah, my friend Melody, who we had as a guest a while back, loved that episode,
You
and it
did.
was
You
just the
did.
jokes were so bad.
For those of you who have not listened to all of our episodes, I highly recommend that you do so now.
Do it.
But if you don't do it, shame on you, number one. Number two, we did an episode once a while back where we literally just rattled off the worst jokes we could find. Space jokes
Yeah.
we could find. I thought.
Jokes that were so bad that I got banned from ChatGPT for a day for trying to generate even worse and worse jokes. And ChatGPT was like, no more. Please, no, make it stop.
ChatGPT has a tolerance level of only so much.
Yeah, only so much I can handle. But yes, definitely, folks, go back and listen to those episodes or watch them. You can see our lovely faces on the YouTube or the Tiki Talkie Clock app, if that's still available in whichever country you're listening from. And hey, we're all over the socials. You can find us. You can message us. Specifically, Benjamin, where can people find you?
You can find me under the name of Science Actually. Facebook is the big one. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Thread, Mastodon, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, and as Kavi said, TikTok and YouTube. How about you, Kavi?
Yes, I can be found occasionally lurking on all of the social medias as at Fun Fact Science. Yeah, you can find me there. You can send me a message and say, "Hey, I love your podcast," or you can say, "Hey, I like your podcast, but you could do this, this, and that to improve it." We will accept any constructive criticism,
Love to hear
but
that from
non-constructive
anybody. That'd be
criticism
wonderful.
non-constructive criticism just makes me sad. We haven't gotten any of that, other than that one guy, but on YouTube. But yes, folks, please feel free to reach out to us. Let us know what you think, and we'll see y'all next time on Science Actually Presents The Nerd and the Scientist. I'm trying to do that. There we go.
Oh, that was great.